near the size of the New York City Police Department. We're like a precinct in New York City. That's what we are. But I will tell you that last year, crime overall was reduced by 13.5%. Now we're talking about double digits in a city that during the day has about 250,000 people traversing through the city. So even though we only have 50-some-odd thousand residents that live here, we've got close to 250,000 people traversing through the city every day, and those people need our services. And to have double-digit numbers in crime really is, the officers are doing an outstanding job. So with that, Mayor, you want to say a few things?
I'm the only one who was here last time, the whole panel. So, and we've also had a meeting, we've all met with the committee of NAACP in the interim on some issues. So part of what we discussed that day, I think maybe would be of interest, the programs that the city is engaged in terms of community outreach, programs we're engaged in terms of outreach to youth. I can say for my own, for me, I've been met with, we had a meeting out at the high school with Sergeant Muniz was there with me, with a lot of young people to answer some questions. I'm always in, those of you who live in White Plains probably know that I'm always out in the schools, in every event I can get to, everywhere in the community I can go, because I think that's my role. I'm the only civilian up here. I mean, we have two retired, but I was never a police officer. I was a legal aid attorney, so that probably, I don't know how popular I'll be on the stage, but that's where I was when I was 25 years old, and what I did in the Bronx. I think this meeting is great. I think we need to look for new ways.
Not 9 weeks.
9 weeks, I'm trying to sell it, so let me go with 7. No, I'm only kidding. But it's a 9-week course. It's a classroom with an officer. At this time, it's Sergeant Muniz. And also actually getting out on the road with police officers, seeing how firefighters work, and getting to see what's involved with this profession. And it's such an important point of interaction with the community that we find it a great way for the community to participate. We started a youth academy where we actually went out and recruited young people from different groups in the city and had them participate in it, and that was a great result as well. We also have the Explorers program for young people that are interested in potentially in careers in law enforcement, because I think it's important to get as broad a reach as we can throughout the city in terms of people who want to become police officers. I have to tell you that I'm proud to be mayor of this city. It's a very diverse city. We have a great system here where, because of school choice, there's no neighborhood school, so the city percentages are the same at every school, and every kid goes. So you look at an elementary school in other communities, you have elementary schools where if you live in this neighborhood, you go to that school, and etc. That doesn't happen in White Plains. So you choose your school, and then they balance the schools to make sure they reflect the community, and then that goes right through 6th grade. Every single kid in this entire city goes to the same school for 6th grade. Every single kid goes to the same school 7th and 8th, and every single kid goes to the same high school. So that's something that is started way before I came on the scene. Started back in the 50s and 60s, Carol Johnson. And it's something that has benefited our community. But I do think it's important because I think Lena talked about affordable housing. This stuff is crucial because with the way this county is changing and the way this city is changing, it's becoming more popular. The fear is always that you're going to wind up losing that kind of housing. And so we're working hard to maintain it. And we might have a site very close to us right now. I mean, exceedingly close to us right now for the future. I bring up that issue because I think that's part of, the larger picture, is we have to be together. When people are together, the misunderstandings and misconceptions aren't there. When your child walks into a kindergarten classroom and there's just a bunch of kids, and those are the kids that they grow up with, they're a different child than a child that grows up in a classroom where they only see people that look like them. And I think that changes where we wind up down the road. And I know that sounds like a long path, but I think it's up to us to start walking down that path. I appreciate what law enforcement professionals do, how hard they work, and I recognize the importance of their interaction with the community because, You know, they're wearing our uniform, they're representing the government, and they have to behave accordingly. And as I said, it's a profession, and police officers are treated as professionals, they have to act as professionals. And that's a standard they have to be held to. So I think, do you want to, as long as the mic's all the way down here, I don't know how we want to do this. Do you want Mr. Lieutenant Spencer to talk about?
Answering some of the
Answering some of the questions?
Yes, we had some pre-questions that we had continued from the last forum.
Right.
That
I'm assuming that this is just one meeting in a series of many that will be back to speak. So
Yes.
I'm going to do away with the formal introductions. We can revisit that, and you guys will get to know me as we move on with these discussions. I think it's very important that we share this information. I'm a father and a brother and a husband, and I think it's important that our community is exposed to the information that you guys are bringing up tonight. One of the questions is, under what circumstances is it reasonable for a police officer to stop a citizen? And there are 4 distinct levels of police intrusion that require some prior knowledge to justify an intrusion or stop. The first level is just a request for information, and police officers in a non-law enforcement specific incident can just approach a citizen for information. For example, if there's a car accident and we need to find witnesses and you happen to be walking down the street, I can approach you to ascertain information. Or if there's a lost child and we want to find out where the parents are, we can approach, we're allowed to approach citizens, and there's nothing wrong with that. The second level is the common law right to inquiry, which is pretty much activated by a founded suspicion that some criminal activity is afoot. Not necessarily that the person that we're approaching is engaged in this criminal activity, but founded suspicion that criminal activity is afoot. We use this engagement or this approach to obtain information. Now, at this level, a person is free to go. We're not forcibly detaining, or we shouldn't be forcibly detaining at this point, but merely we're trying to approach someone who may have some information that we need as part of our investigation. And I see a couple of lawyers in the audience, and please stop me if I don't read this verbatim. I get more the spirit of the law than possibly the technicality. The third level involves a forcible stop. In policing, it's known as the Terry stop. It's it exceeds more than an informational stop, but doesn't necessarily reach the level of an arrest. At that level, we can forcibly stop and detain a person for investigatory purposes. A lot of people some confuse this with, and some have heard stop and frisk, which we do not practice in White Plains. This intrusion is merely a stop for investigation when we have reasonable suspicion that criminal activities afoot, and we're trying to keep things the way we are and to garner more information. So we can forcibly stop a person. Now, under certain circumstances, we can conduct a cursory frisk for weapons. If we observe a bulge in your waistband or clothing shifting in a manner that would lead us to believe that there is a weapon on your persons, we can conduct a cursory pat down or frisk for that particular weapon. It's not empty your pockets, or we're not going through your pockets and dumping everything out on the car just to find evidence. It's at that point, at the Terry stop, the frisk is merely a cursory pat down for weapons, and you need reasonable suspicion, and you're trying to, you have to be able to articulate what led you to believe that there's a weapon on that person, what you saw, whether it's the way that the jacket shifted or a bulge in the waistband. So at that point, you can, stop the person and you pat them down. And then the last, the most intrusive level is an arrest, where at that point you hear probable cause. In New York State, it's reasonable cause to believe that crime has been committed, and we can arrest and actually seize you and take you to headquarters for an arrest. Does anyone want to add to that?
I just want to say, we do not practice stop, question, and frisk in this city. Okay, what we do, and I, as the commissioner, have not made it a mandatory thing as far as productivity. There are some departments that have made it a mandatory thing that says that if officers don't conduct so many whatever, so many stops, so many this, so many that, that the officers are judged about their production or about their activity in the street. We have none of that in the city. We
Actually,
have absolutely none.
in some places, the bad stigma of that third intrusion is, in some places, they pretty much use this intrusion as like a net, and they just stop people just because, they want to be able to find weapons or no articulable reason. And we don't practice that here. As a matter of fact, most of our stops are not self-initiated by police officers. Most of the stops are initiated by a call to 911 or to police headquarters, a suspicious person walking down my street, peering into cars, that type of stop. So when people think of stop and frisk, it is in White Plains. It is not that officers are going out on the street and casting a net out to stop, people. Most of the times it's because we receive a phone call.
And it's important to say that even in those situations, the officer must document it.
Yes.
Even in those situations, the officer must document it, and my Office of Professional Standards reviews all of those
All right,
stops.
Commissioner, I'm going to interrupt because our topic tonight is rebuilding trust with the community. And even though we gave you a format of questions, we want you to make that connection with each question. So as you're telling us what your policy is and giving us some good examples, this community that really doesn't know you wants to hear how do we trust? How do we rebuild a good feeling when you stop us?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm retired Sergeant, Narcotics Unit in Mount Vernon, New York. I was born in White Plains, actually. Moved to Mount Vernon in junior high school. Became a police officer there in Mount Vernon. Graduated from Monroe College. As a matter of fact, this was my professor here. Okay.
Gave him an A.
Deserved the A. I'm also a member of the Bright Hope Lodge here in White Plains. I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi in New Rochelle. I was former president of the National Black Police Association for Westchester County, and also the president of the Blacks in Blue in Mount Vernon. So in terms of developing dialogue, that's the first thing. It has to be honest dialogue between community and law enforcement for it to work. And one of the most important things, in which my organization now, no organization I'm a part of, is Black Law Enforcement of America, we stress the importance of community policing. In my experience, and I've been through a lot in terms of law enforcement, I'm a former school resource officer, a youth detective, quality of life officer, homicide detective, and sergeant of the narcotics unit. And throughout my whole career, I had not received one civilian complaint because I use dialogue. Not a lot of officers do, and I don't fault anybody for what they don't do, but I was taught very early on the art of verbal judo, which I've been quite successful at. We got quite a few confessions underneath when Commissioner Chong was the commissioner in Mount Vernon. We had the most successful homicide unit in the state of New York. But a lot of that had to do with the men and women that were working in that unit. And one of the things that frustrates me, I must say, is that accountability, the community will feel more comfortable when they have the accountability in the police department. I think that's what a lot of people are fearing. When you have actions that are done that are not within law enforcement policies and procedures, I think a lot of people lose faith in the law enforcement. And not only do they, but I must say, officers that work with them also lose that. You know, because a lot of officers, even though they don't say anything, they don't appreciate it because it makes them look bad. So I think the dialogue has to begin, and it has to begin from the top. It has to start with, we're not accepting police brutality, and it will be dealt with immediately and harshly and swiftly. I find in Westchester County far too often that we refuse to address those police officers that do bad things. Now, 90% of your police officers in every department will do the right thing, but there are bad apples. But if they're not dealt with, it spreads like a virus. Because once you say it's all right, it'll continue to go. It's like a snowball. So the first thing is dialogue within the department, dialogue within the community, and you need to get out and vote, and you need to make yourself boisterous.
Thank you, Anthony. Our department, when you say the verbal communication skills is very important to us, we have a huge block of training that involves teaching officers, because these officers, I mean, let's be honest, they're young, right? They're young, and you know, most of the officers on patrol now, we had a whole change over, and most of our officers on patrol are like in their 20s. And, you know, they call it the Y generation because they can communicate better on a cell phone than they can communicate verbally. And one of the jobs, and I teach community policing, as you know, Anthony, for supervisors in the police academy, but one of the jobs is to get them to actually physically speak to people, talk to people, show people that they're human. And what we do is we have a very, very good course on what's called verbal de-escalation. We have a verbal de-escalation course. You call it verbal judo, we call it verbal de-escalation. Where, you know what? The attitude is that, you know, start nice. Always start nice. I'll be right with you, sir. Always, always start nice, right? Because if you start bad, it's very difficult to get nice, okay? If you start nice, then if it escalates, God forbid that it escalates, but we practice this verbal de-escalation to try to calm things down. And I'll tell you, we have a very, very good relationship with our youth bureau. Our youth bureau under Director Frank Williams is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And he has police officers come in and talk to the youth all the time. And it's all about de-escalation, it's all about respect. Our youth and our officers, if you take a look at them, the age difference is really not that great of an age difference. We're talking, you know, officers that are in their 20s, and we're talking about youth that, you know, 15 and above or whatever. And so, you know, we try to get that personal feeling out there. And Sergeant Muniz can talk about some of the engagements that he does with the school on weekend nights.
I'm going to stop you in terms of the panel because it's now time for the audience to have the dialogue. So if anyone has a question, I'm going to ask you to line up behind me because we're going to form a line. I need to see your question because no statements are allowed. We don't want any statements. We want you to ask your questions.
Just one thing.
I believe he was going to take a question from somebody.
Well, first of all, Mr. Pegues didn't even get the chance to introduce himself.
Oh, Mr. Pegues didn't introduce himself?
No.
All right. Well, hold on, Rev. We're going
Need to know how to deal with the police, and not just the police know how to deal with the kids, but the kids really need to know how to deal with the police. So it's very important. It's imperative that someone tells them, not to disrespect the cops. But when you have the cops come and tell you how to deal with them, I'm not trusting that. You need somebody outside the police to come and tell you how to deal with the police. And I'm pretty sure these officers do a great job. But right now, the climate in America, right now, today, America needs to realize there's a problem with policing in minority communities. I don't know what the demographics is in White Plains, but the issue in policing right now today is policing in minority communities. As a matter of fact, it's almost relegated to policing in black communities. That's it in a nutshell. So if we're going to talk about it, let's talk about it. That's what the problem is. In America right now, everybody's looking. It's all eyes on us. 27,000 people came down to the funeral for Detective First Grade Ramos and Lou, all right? 27,000. The world is looking at us, all right? And if America don't fix this small little thing, we have all of these young black unarmed men dead and elderlies like Mr. Chamberlain's father dead, and everybody's getting acquitted. It's a problem. We have to get down to the bottom of it. All right? That's what it's about. So let's get some good questions going. Grab them quickly. Go. Go. Go ahead.
Billy Donahue.
Yeah. I got a little control on this mic here. Question is that our young people and the people in our community, all they see about the police department is what they've seen on the television. Whether it be Ferguson, whether it be Detroit, whether it be New York City. That's their image of policing. How can we in White Plains demonstrate and show that that is not us? We are different. What are the talking points? What makes us different than New York City? What makes us different than St. Louis, than Ferguson, than Cleveland? Those kind of things that we can use to say, not to our young people, but say to everyone else, we're not New York. We're White Plains. I hate to say this, Commissioner Charles, we're not Mount Vernon. You understand what I'm saying? Tell us that's the kind of PR that we need to strengthen what we do. The mayor last time was here said he's going to test body cameras. He's going to do some things in White Plains that are not being done anywhere else in Western. We are not New York. Tell us how we can demonstrate that and how we can communicate, especially those of us here who have some relationship in our communities.
Commissioner, you're going to answer that? Well, just let me just let you know, policing is the same all over the country. So if you want to get on your high horse and say it's all about White Plains, you're fooling yourself. Police, we all do the same thing. I'm telling you right now. And guess what else? We all got the same attitude. All over the country. Policing, they call it, what they call it? The blue wall? I don't know what it is because I never was a part of it. But
That's right.
They call it the blue wall. It's everywhere. It's all over. So I'm pretty sure the commissioner probably have a good answer to that question, but just for my little 2 cents, what we can tell our young people, we tell our young people, one, to respect the police. That's what we do. I was sitting on a panel a few weeks ago with this retired detective, a Caucasian guy, and he said, well, you know, when I was growing up, my parents had to talk to me about the police. And I said, yeah, but guess what? The conversations were a little bit different. Yours probably was, oh, Joey, respect the police. You know, these guys are good. Don't, you know, if you get in trouble, go see them. And our communities, in my house, we're in that car when you get pulled over. Keep your hands on the steering wheel. If you're reaching for your wallet, you tell him, sir, I'm going for my wallet right now, but I'm afraid to reach for it because you got to tell the guy on the other side of the car that I'm getting ready to go into my back pocket. That's the type of stuff we say in our house. So like I said, if we're going to talk about it, we got to keep it right, okay? Those are the issues that we have in our household, even black commanders.
That's right.
Just Pastor made reference to the body cameras. So how long ago was it that we put the first ones out? We had 5 out on the street. We are getting ready to authorize in the budget the purchase of 50 more, which basically will mean every officer on duty in the city of White Plains will be wearing a body camera. And I know that in about, which is good news for everybody, because I think I'm sorry, I don't know what rank you were, detective? A sergeant mentioned, that's a benefit to the police, you know, the 95%, however many percent you want to say are doing the right thing. that protects them from a false claim. It also allows us to know who doesn't belong wearing our uniform. And so hopefully tonight, in about 15 minutes, the president is going to speak. Our president is going to speak to all of us, and I know this is something he's talking about, is to put out funding for this. And I hope we get it so we can spend the money on something else. But if we don't get it, I hope we don't send it. Don't let this get out, because I hope we do get it. But if we don't get it, we're buying them anyway, because I just think it's an important thing to do. And I will say one thing about this department. We had the other day, we had a group of kids at the high school who wanted to speak out on all these issues, and they said, we're going to leave school, we're going to walk to downtown White Plains, and we're going to protest. And the reaction in this community was, the school let us know, our police department made sure they were safe crossing all the streets as they walked down, stood back, let them, because it's their right, and we're proud of them for speaking up for themselves and for others. So that's how this community handled that incident. So I'm not saying everything's perfect. I'm just saying there are different ways to handle things. When you have protests in this city, and I'm sure I have people in this room that have participated in them, you don't see our police officers roll up with their helmets on as though there's going to be a battle. Their approach is to stand back and to make sure everybody is safe. And that's something that I'm proud of. But believe me, we look at everything that goes on, and we're not looking through rose-colored glasses, but that's an example of, how our department has functioned in some pretty important times.
We actually congratulated and, congratulated the kids for making their voices heard. Lou, you want to speak?
I just want to comment, because I tend to agree with the pastor, not necessarily in disagreement with the inspector, but we are different. As a matter of fact, recently we have been meeting with different groups that are already established through the Youth Bureau, and most of these groups are at-risk, young, black, and Hispanic men. Our intention was to get to them the information that they needed. And you say that the kids, if they hear from the police officers, they may not trust it. They may not, but it's still incumbent upon us to give them the information. So we sat down with several groups thus far, one being the clubmen at the high school, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? And one of the young men told me that in this discussion that he grew up in Chicago and moved to White Plains when he was 11 or 12 years old. And he told me that there's a big difference between policing in Chicago and policing in White Plains, whereas he didn't even see police officers in Chicago, let alone would approach one. But yet in White Plains, he's walking down the hallway, and in the high school, he feels comfortable enough to come up to a police officer, sit down and have a conversation with a police officer. I mention this because we have some initiatives that we're doing right now. And instead of just giving the kids the information that we think they need, we figured we'd get a baseline of what their perspective was from the kids, not from the parents or from adults, teachers, or coordinators. We want to sit down with the kids to see where their heads were at, where they needed the information. It made no sense to give them something that's over their head or below them. So we met with these groups. We had a very challenging discussion. There was some good points brought up, and we plan to continue these meetings.
Question on that.
Let me say something real quick, and I'm going to be quick about it because I know we're up for time. To eliminate a lot of these situations and problems, one of the things I had done in Mount Vernon was I developed a law enforcement course in the school. Teaching your children the law, okay, this is something that affects you for the rest of your life. One mistake, so every child should learn about the law. I'm disappointed. When I went to the police academy and learned what I learned, I was like, wow, I could have been arrested for something. Trust me, I was no angel. But it's so important. And I don't understand why. I think it's something that the educational system should look at and consider in terms of having someone teach law. Basic New York State penal law, each state teach it, so that our young people, believe me, they make educated decisions if they have the education. So I've always been an advocate for that. I've taught it. The 83 kids that the children that I taught were at alternative high school. All of them had been arrested at one time or another. And I taught that class for 3 years. 83% of those kids, 83.2%, stayed out of trouble. With those numbers, I can't see why we're not teaching it in school at an earlier age, such as the middle school to the high school.
Okay, we've got to hear from the community in between, okay?
Yeah, I don't need a mic.
Speak real loud.
Okay, fine. My name is Jack Toon. I'm a director of juvenile justice research for an organization called One Accord. And I didn't come to, I guess 1 and 2. This is third session of this. But I mean, everything sounds really good up here, right? Everything. I'm coming. Please. They talk a lot. Can the community talk? I just want to hear from the. This is a yes or no question from the mayor and the commissioner. Is there a problem with race in White Plains in regards to police and community? Yes or no?
Good question.
I think there is, no.
There's a no.
I think there's an issue in the whole country. So, and White Plains is not immune to that, but I say that, saying that I'm proud of the force we have, the diversity of the force and the way they interact with the community. But we're all here tonight, the mayor is sitting here tonight. I mean, I'm not patting myself on the back, because we want to engage and make it better. We want to make relationships with everybody better.
But
There's work to be done every day by everybody.
is that a yes?
I don't like to, no, I don't adopt your question. I think what I'm saying is that I consider that the work of improving relations between all people, whatever their differences, whether it's race or any other thing, is a work that we all must take on. And if you choose to become a police professional, you have to take it on even more than anyone else. Because you're wearing the uniform and you are the arm of the government. And in a country where the Constitution starts out with we the people, you have to remember that.
So it sounds like, yes, but we're working on it.
No, but I mean, but I say yes, it's a knack, but I don't want to single out, I don't want to single out our city, because I don't think that's fair.
We're here for a reason, right?
No, but
You know what, Mayor, with all due respect,
you want to get out of it? Like, what do you stand to get out of it?
No, I mean,
yeah, I think that this gentleman made it clear, whether you want to say it or not, it's a national problem.
I know, but
So
we're
you're not
responsible.
singling us out.
No, not at
You're
all.
saying
I'm
we're
just
part of
saying,
a national problem.
I consider from the date that this country was formed, we have race issues that started right out of the gate because we had people that were declaring everyone to be free that were owning people, enslaving people. So it's an ongoing thing. And that's what I've devoted. When I came out of law school, I went into the Legal Aid Society. I feel it's something that we all have to strive for. So that's where I am on it. And I expect that our police officers will conduct themselves accordingly.
Let's be realistic about the race issue. It's here, and we need to stop walking around it like it's not here. It is what it is, and we fail to realize. I mean, I'm surprised at this day and age that I'm still hearing nigger, I'm still hearing cracker, I'm still hearing slam eye, all of this. Come on, we're human beings. At the end of the day, we're human beings, but the reality of it is that there are prejudices here. And the way you're going to start to address those situations is through dialogue. Not only through dialogue, but through action. And that comes from the community, and it comes from those in power to call it out. Like, one of the disappointing things that I've had the problem with in Westchester County was when all of this stuff was going on all through the country, I didn't hear one political leader stand up and say anything. I didn't hear one police department say, we're not going to go for police brutality. I'm disappointed in that because it didn't come, and I'm not just pointing out White Plains, it was Westchester County. I didn't hear the DA's office. There's situations that we have to come to reality with that, look, it's bigger than us.
Yes.
And we have to sit back and say, let's talk about it, let's have a dialogue. It can't be one-sided. But the reality of it is what it is. And we got to stop running from it. So let's talk real, please.
All right, we appreciate that. We want to give the community a chance.
Okay, my name is Sandy Burnaby. I'm here with representing the Anti-Racist Alliance and the National Association of Social Workers. And my question has to do with accountability and the blue wall of silence. In the face of videos where you see brazen police officers acting out with aggression, with racist remarks, I'd like to know what is, and we're talking about Gurley and Hart in the Chamberlain case, in the videos that we saw. Okay, no, I'm asking in general, what is the White Plains Police Department doing to turn the mirror inward to begin to deal with those tough issues when we have evidence that things are happening. There will never be trust until we see police officers say, we're not God, we're not infallible, we make mistakes and we have sickness too. And we have to unearth that, just like you said. No, we're not New York City, but we are New York City, and we are all, policing is policing. It's a tough job. What is White Plains Police doing to turn the mirror inward and to unearth what we witnessed on video and what we heard on video? Good question.
So, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I can change someone's mind. Whatever bias you have, or whatever you bring to the table, if you're a grown man, that's what you think. However, as a supervisor, if I see that your bias manifests in performance or conduct, then I discipline you. When, you know, I'm not gonna, we don't live in La La Land. There's some people that come to the job with baggage and biases.
But if there's
And
no accountability for that.
there is accountability, because the beautiful thing about this country is you can think what you want, and you can almost say what you want. But when your biases manifest in an area that affects our community in terms of performance, conduct, or even attendance, if you don't want to be at a certain place where you should be, then we can discipline you. In White Plains, we have. We've seen things that, like you said, on video that we didn't like, and we've disciplined certain parties.
And now everything's going to be on video. That's the goal, is that everything will be on video.
Everything will be on video, but the community never got that. The community never got discipline. We just see people getting away with things.
No.
And
Let me just add here, because that was a nice answer the lieutenant gave, but I don't necessarily agree with it, because I'm gonna tell you this. I was a cop for 21 years. One thing I know about police, and anybody sitting in this room, the only way you change people's attitudes is when they gotta figure out how they're gonna pay their mortgage at the end of the month. That's it. That's the only way you change people's attitude. So when you take somebody, you say we discipline some people, you took them off patrol, you sat them in a chair for a few weeks. No, I'm not, Lou, listen, I'm just telling you, the only way you deal with police, you have to start changing their attitudes, and when they start seeing their brothers and sisters being on the Channel 7 News, walking out with handcuffs, I guarantee you, all of this stuff we're seeing around the country, I'm not even talking about using White Plains because y'all sitting there, Commissioner, but the only way you change people's attitudes, you gotta start locking these people up. And they have to start getting some time in jail, and they'll come to these various communities, because it's not the mayor, it's not the commissioner, it's not the executives on the board. These cops that's running around here, they're not getting disciplined, and they're saying, hey, I could get away with it, no problem, let the next person do it. Because there's no way in the world you can put a video camera on somebody, watch them get choked and killed, and say, hey, I've been screaming for video cameras, but after the Garner case, I'm like, I don't even know if we need cameras now. But then the better side of me thought and said, we need them because that's one piece of the puzzle. That's gonna be one piece of the puzzle. But don't get stuck on the cameras, because we seen videos of people getting murdered. That was murder, okay? Because the ME said part of the death was compression of the chest, asphyxiation, and he didn't stand up and die like that. Yeah, he was overweight, he had some weight issues, but those other things killed him. So don't get stuck on the video. But until we start disciplining, real discipline means, hey, sorry, you just lost your job. And you know what, Commissioner? I say this. I know you fired people, I read about it. And that's what you gotta do, because you know what? What these commissioners gotta start doing is firing the people and then make them fight for their job. Let them fight for the job back. Let the mayor worry about his budget when they sue you for $2 million. But we gotta start firing these road cops, get them out of here, and let them go pay $50,000 for a lawyer to try to get their job back.
Okay, let's get a couple more questions. Do you need the mic? I might need the mic. Oh, yeah. Why don't you come up to the, okay. The cord is short.
All right, my name's Deb Margolius. I live in White Plains, and let me say, I have love for the police because, like I was saying to the commissioner, I live behind the White Plains Diner and the Tattoo Parlor, and, you know, they're 24/7, well, the diner is, and Patrick's Pub, so, you know, there are fights there late at night on the weekends, and I'm not having anyone die on my watch, so I call the police, and they come and they check it out, and they make sure the situation is safe. So I do really appreciate the police, and I do work for the county probation department. I am not here representing them, I'm not a probation officer, but I understand both sides, and unfortunately, the criminal justice system is the way that the society is dealing with a lot of social ills, and it's unfortunate because it's overkill, and it ruins kids'
We need a
lives.
question, we need a
Okay, let me
question.
get to the question. So I actually have several questions. First of all, okay.
Only
What?
one, we only get one.
Okay. All right. You're good. What is the policy regarding filing complaints about police misconduct? And what's the policy and procedure?
Thank you.
I can answer that because I just looked up our statistics for the last year, 2014. And we've had 16 civilian complaints in 2014. Half of them, 50% of them, came from people that were arrested for some certain crime or whatever. So half of them came from people that are arrested. We have online, you can go online and you can get a complaint form, download the complaint form, fill it out and send it. You can also email myself, the chief, or the assistant chief, or the lieutenant that's in charge of internal affairs. We call it professional standards. And you could also call the desk, or you could walk into the police station and ask for a complaint form. Now understand, all of the recordings that come into the desk, so if you dial our central number, every call that you put into our central number is recorded.
There's two numbers, right? Emergency and non-emergency.
Non-emergency number, right? 911 is the emergency number, okay? But if you call our non-emergency number and ask for a supervisor, understand that that phone call is recorded. So if you call that number and you say, I want a civilian complaint report, or I have a complaint against a certain person, that supervisor knows he's being recorded and is obligated to either send you the report, take the report over the phone, or ask you to come in and file the report, whatever you prefer to do. And then we track those reports, and I have a standard that my professional standards people have to return that call within 72 hours. Just to let them know we have it documented. You know, sometimes you can't investigate something within 72 hours, but we will return a call to you to say that it's been documented, it's been filed. My name is Lieutenant Michael Fitzmaurice. I'm in charge of this, and this is my number, and you can contact me, and we're going to investigate your complaint.
Now, what's the number, the non-emergency number?
The non-emergency number?
422-6111.
422-6111. And the website, of course, and the website.
And, you know, and it's funny you bring that up. One of the things that I kind of disagree with a department investigating itself. I have a problem with that. Look, I did all, you can name it. I did intel in the department, I did gangs, and I'm not knocking White Plains at all. Don't trust me. But what I have a problem with is because you're still talking to officers that are friends. These people work together for a very long time. I've seen some things that happen that are not appropriate and should never be done. You need outside entities to investigate police misconduct. You need that. I'm an advocate for a CCRB, Civilian Complaint Review Board, which would only consist of one officer. But there's so many issues that when you say the justice system needs to be reevaluated, so does the way policing needs to be reevaluated. Understand that in America, the police law enforcement system was based on slavery. A lot of people don't know that, but it was called the slave patrol. Okay? So understand that there's a lot of issues that we need to address, but we need to do it through dialogue. And we need to be honest. And a lot of times we don't find that.
I don't want to hold up.
You have to move up, sir.
Step up, Jim.
Can't do it? All right, I'm sorry.
Well, come on up.
My name is Jim Cobb. I'm a retired small businessman from Tarrytown. And I want to go to the point that you're trying to build trust, and you haven't got a prayer unless there's transparency and open and honest dialogue between the parts of the community. In our effort to build trust between the community and that part of the community, which are the police, how do we handle the dialogue or the lack of it of when an officer or officers precipitate a tragedy through actions which may not strictly be a crime, but are obviously a blunder and demonstrate incompetence?
Well, if they're demonstrating incompetence, then it's probably a retraining issue. That's what it is. Because you already put out there that it's not a crime. So if we're going to be looking at it, if it's on video and we see it and he or she did something that was a blunder, it's a retraining issue. You bring them in, or attitude adjustment, and that's what lieutenants and sergeants are for. Pull a guy to the side. Say, listen, White Plains don't tolerate that. That's not how you treat the community.
Listen, 3 years ago, Kenneth Chamberlain was killed. It took them 2 hours to do it. It took down a door that was protected.
That was a crime, and they can't talk about that right now.
Okay, I know they can't.
That was a crime.
Yeah, the mayor, they can't talk about
That was a crime, so what's happening with that?
it. They can't talk about it because it's in litigation.
I know that, but I asked the question. It's obviously a blunder.
Well, I'm not talking case specific because.
All right, I understand. I'm sorry, I'm going to sit down.
No, you can stand right.
All right, these are our last questions. I would ask that you not get online at this point, okay? These are it.
Well, I mean, since you can't talk about the Kenny Chamberlain case, but my question is, what mechanisms are in place now in White Plains policies and procedures to make sure that the incident of Kenny Chamberlain won't happen to any other senior that accident?
Discuss the particular case because the case is in litigation. So I cannot discuss that particular case. But I will tell you that we learn from everything. We learn from everything, and we are consistently training. And what we do is we learn from not just ourselves internally, which is very important to do, but we learn from everything that occurs across the country, and we look at incidents that are occurring across the country, and we learn. I wish there was a magic pill. I really do. I wish there was a magic pill that we could all take and say that every single issue in policing will go away. There isn't a magic pill, sir. But we are trying, and one of the reasons we're trying is we're sitting here, we're listening, we listen, we understand your concerns. I am the head of the department. I am here listening. I understand your concerns. It is not falling on deaf ears. That's all I can say.
Next.
Hello, I'm Reverend Doris Dalton. I'm new, so I get to, yeah, I am. See, right here, Reverend, that's me. Here you go. I got a question for you. I'm new, so I get to ask questions because I don't know what's going on here. New in town, just moved here.
Okay.
I'm just going by the look on your face.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I love it. It's very nice. I hail from Philadelphia. What's up? My question is, knowing that we're here about building community and building trust, obviously, I'm new, obviously there has been some trust broken, right? Between you, between the community, perhaps if there was not necessarily stop, question, or frisk, but something that may have been a blunder or whatever, community trust has been broken. There must be something that, not only from what people see in the media, but also what young boys, young girls see that cause them to not believe that the police are always on their side or always going to be able to do well for them. My question is, do you have a reconciliation process in place besides these dialogues? Do you have something in place that would be able to waylay possibilities of litigation? I understand this is New York and state of lawyers, but you don't always have to litigate, right? You can ask for forgiveness. You can find ways to reconcile. Have you figured out how to do that?
I will tell you that it is a constant work in progress, okay? It is a constant work in progress. I will tell you in this particular city and my particular attitude, we have a couple of things. We have a drug court because we want to give people second chances. And people that participate in our drug court that don't go back to drugs can have their records cleared. We have developed a youth court for minor crimes, such as graffiti, such as stuff that is done by young people, and we don't want to tag young people with a criminal record. So with the youth court, they are judged by their peers. And the youth court, typically the punishment is community service. So these are the things that I think we're very progressive in. And understand, we are open-minded. I will tell you that. We are open-minded. We are open to suggestions. We have to abide by the laws that govern us. But we are open to suggestions. And I will tell you, as a commissioner of this department, and as a former commissioner of Mount Vernon, I take it personally. Every single officer that I hire, it's a good job. I mean, it really is. It's a good job. And you know what? I take it personally if anybody messes up. And we, you know, but everyone here, including everybody up on this dais, is made of flesh and blood. And all I can tell you is the dialogue will continue. I promise it will continue. We are listening to you. We are trying to work things out. It is not White Plains, as Corey and as my former student said, Tony, okay, it is a national issue, okay? It is a national issue, but it also, right, I mean, it has to start here, right? I mean, it has to start in every single community and every single neighborhood.
Question, please, no statements. Yes.
My name is Phyllis Rodriguez. I've lived in White Plains for 25 years. I grew up in the Bronx in the 1950s and 60s, and police walked the beat. They didn't drive through the communities. I lived in a fairly mixed neighborhood. As a matter of fact, it was...
Phyllis, you got to get to the question.
Okay, the question. I think with police in cars, it contributes to the idea of us and them, you know, and I think that White Plains has an opportunity to do something that could set an example by thinking again about officers on the beat.
You got to ask the question.
So my question is, Commissioner, would you consider that, and an addendum to that is, will Officer Munoz get a chance to say anything?
Well, you know what? I will let him answer. We have a park walk and talk program, and I will let Sergeant Muniz answer about our park walk and talk program. And I will tell you, as a commissioner, you've seen me out there riding my bicycle, okay? And we have a big bicycle patrol program, because you are absolutely right. It humanizes the police officer. Sergeant Muniz?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, in reference to what makes White Plains different to other communities, we do a lot of different things. We have a lot of programs in place, we have a lot of partnerships in place, and we have grants in place that help us to do more for the communities and different people in our community that we service. We have, besides the civilian academy, we have a youth academy, we have the Explorers, and we work with a lot of young people at the high schools. And we work with the Youth Bureau very closely. Now, the Youth Bureau is an amazing program. Frank Williams does a wonderful job dealing with young people there. And we work together in that when we review reports, we make referrals to the Youth Bureau. When they run into situations, they make referrals to us so we can make the connection and help the families. So I just wanted to throw that in there really quick because that's one of the things that I work on very diligently with and I'm very proud of because we do a lot of good work in that area. In reference to the walking, we do have a park walk and talk program where officers are directed when they have some downtime. Now, we've had, I think last year we had about 61,000 calls for service. So we have a lot of calls for service. And if they have a moment, they're supposed to park the car in a populated area, get out, walk and talk. I was a walking officer when I came out my first 5 years on the job, and I truly understand the value of being a beat cop, getting to meet and know the kids and the families in the community. When I walked Ferris Avenue, I walked Ferris Avenue for about 4.5 years. I would get out of my post and I made friends and I would have dinner with people there. I'd have coffee with people there to talk about their jobs and what's going on with the kids and do the follow-up in the schools. So I do see the value in it. But you also have to understand how our society has changed. The volume, calls for service has changed. We continue to try to do that with the park walk and talk, but it does get a little bit complicated and difficult. You know, when you're looking at 61,000 calls, 195 officers, and all the things that we have to do on a day-to-day basis, when you take into consideration, not only do we have to service the 60,000 people that are residents living here, but the 250,000 people that drive into our city or come to work into our city every day. So that's just another factor for you to consider.
Thank you.
Also, can I just add that one of the new initiatives, and we will, the Sergeant and I are trying to come up with new ideas for outreach in the community. The mayor and the commissioner have both made it clear that this is a priority. One of the things that we intend to do is we have 8 detectives in our division assigned to domestic violence outreach, mental health outreach, a host of other initiatives. But they do have some time to do other things as well. So we plan on carving up the city into geographic sectors and assigning each detective that geographic sector, kind of like the patrol cop has a beat, so that that detective will be responsible for the neighborhood association meetings, the tenants associating meetings in that sector. Part of driving up and down the street is the anonymity that the public doesn't know the police officer. This will give each different community a specific person that they can go to for issues and concerns. We bring that back, work with me, the sergeant, and if necessary, we bring that to the commissioner's office. So that's one of the initiatives we're working on. We have a couple more that we're going to bring to the commissioner in terms of not just bringing, not just outreach and bringing awareness to the community, but also responding to, let's say, a sensitive incident, you know, from a community policing perspective and that implication. So there's some things, you know, I took this position in September, tried to hit the ground running, reached out to a host of pastors in the community. With the councilwoman, we set up some training for the supervisors in White Plains. There's some things that we're doing, but there's more to do. But point taken is that the commissioner and the mayor's office has committed that this is a priority.
Thank you. Before we take her from the town of Greenberg.
Everybody's here. So, remember, I'm not from here, so I have to hold their feet to the fire, okay? I'm a police expert, law enforcement, that's what I do. So when you said we got to park, walk, and talk, all right, when you ask for community policing, be careful for what you ask for, because the sergeant just gave me all the negatives that I hate about community policing. Because he's going to be eating dinner over at somebody's house. Y'all laughing. He's going to be having coffee with somebody. And when that somebody he had dinner with committed a crime, guess what? He's not locking him up. It's not going to happen. So be careful what you ask for with community policing. Now, the park, walk, and talk, I like that. And I was pre-Comstat, post-Comstat. So I was there when we had community police in the NYPD, and you can never find a community police officer, and a few of them got locked up for corruption. So I know what community policing is all about. Y'all might not know, but I know. Remember, I've been doing this for a long time. The park, walk, and talk, when I was a commander, I'm not letting the cop, I don't say, hey, do park, walk, and talk when you get a break. No, you're gonna get out that car at 11 o'clock, and you're gonna walk these 5 blocks. I don't care if 10 people get shot. The other cops gotta answer that job. But at 11 o'clock, that's where you gotta go for an hour, so I know where you are. Then the next guy, you're gonna do it at 12, and the next one, you're gonna do it at 1, so on and so forth. Because if you leave it up to the cop, it's never gonna happen. The last thing I want to talk to y'all about Ferguson, because we talked about White Plains, a small town. Let's look at Ferguson, because what y'all doing is something different than they're doing. 53 police officers, only 2 or 3 of them was black. When Mike Brown died, the police chief said he didn't know it was a problem in the community. Well, I think the mayor and the police commissioner knows that there's a problem in this community right here. So y'all are doing something a little different than some of these national incident towns are doing, because the commissioner out there didn't even have a clue that in a community it was 72% black. He didn't have an issue in the black community. So y'all, I don't know what y'all breakdown is, but I think the commissioner and the mayor knows there's a problem. You just gotta keep holding their feet to the fire.
Good evening, everybody. Hi, Jimmy. I actually went to school with Jimmy. He's awesome. And I had met on the show People Before Politics. I have a 2-part question. One for Jimmy and Officer Munoz. If people don't feel comfortable going to the police station to actually file a report, will it be to file a report on, say, they have an officer incident or something happened with a police officer? A complaint. Can this form be available at the library, at the public library?
It's online. It's online.
It's actually online? Okay.
It's pretty easy. You go to our website. At the bottom, there's a section for forms. You click that, and then there's complaint form.
But
the website, you can go to the City of White Plains website, click on public safety, and it automatically brings up our website. At the bottom of that is a section for forms. You click on that. Complaint form comes right up. You can download it, fill it out, and I would advise that you mail it in, certified return receipt requested, so that you have a record that it was received.
What's the follow-up with that? Like, how do they?
So that goes to the chief of police, who will then assign it depending on what the complaint is. It may be something that does not rise to the level of internal affairs. It may be something that's a training issue or something that a direct supervisor can handle. But that's up to the chief of police to determine.
Okay.
He may then, assign it to the lieutenant who's in charge of professional standards to do an internal affairs investigation.
And I also have a question for the mayor, how are you, mayor, and as well as commissioner.
You're getting 3 questions.
Okay, that's it. This is the last one, I promise. Are there dash cams in our police officer cars that we have now? And if not, will we be getting any for Westchester County?
All of our radio cars have dash cams.
They do?
All of our marked radio cars have white dash cams.
Just White Plains only?
No, we can
I
only
can only
speak about,
speak for White Plains.
we can only speak for White Plains, we don't know what other departments.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, see, y'all not even asking the right question. I'm gonna be a community person. I'm trying to help y'all out here. But when the commissioner stated that he had 16 complaints against cops last year, nobody asked him what was the breakdown of the complaints. What was the dispositions? Don't you want to know what the dispositions are? Did they go in a drop file? Did anybody get suspended? Did somebody get fired? Y'all want, these are the questions y'all gotta ask. It's not a love fest. They get paid big money up there. Let's go. Come on, Commissioner. Give them the answers they're looking for.
Out of the 16 complaints that we had, 6 of them were unfounded. 10 of them were founded, and we took some sort of action, whether it be training, whether it be taking away days, which were charges. Of course, the chief does, the investigation is on internal affairs, or it was instruction. So that's how the breakdown was. So 6 were completely unfounded. We interviewed the people, they were just out of their minds. okay? And you know that, okay? Inspector being a person that's in charge of a precinct, you know that some people are just out of their minds, okay? And then, like I said, 10 of them, we took some sort of action on it, whether it be bringing the officer in and speaking to the officer, or actually, suspending the officer.
Is this a breakdown public information?
No.
No, that's probably just internal, but he gave you over 70,
Because
probably
it's
60,
it's personal.
at least 60, 65%, there was some form of action. So let's give him a hand. That's what y'all want. That's the answer you're looking for.
Okay, I'll take that.
Say one last Let me just say real quick. As a community, there's a few things that you need to be concerned about. Better community policing, proactive policing. You need to confront police brutality. I'm gonna tell you, you need a special prosecutor when you have police issues. The police department should reflect the demographics in your community. And the politicians and administrators, and no disrespect to those that are doing their job, but they have to call out wrongdoing when it's wrong. Point blank period. And I'm not saying in White Plains it's not happening, but it has to happen. The state, the officials, I haven't heard anything from my officials here in Westchester County, and that's what I'm disappointed in. And I agree with the CCRB. I think civilians should be involved in the process. They should be educated in law enforcement, and I think our kids should be educated in it. I'm gonna leave it at that. Thank you.
I want to thank you all, but I had to speak on behalf of those I didn't let speak. Some of you wanted to ask the last question, and time is of the essence, so here it is. When you're talking about building trust, and you say you have the Citizens Academy, can you devote at least 1 week of those 7 weeks to a trust theme, whether it's calling in a Sandy Burnaby for undoing racism, or some other benevolent type of behavior, as the pastor mentioned, talking about forgiveness? Can you incorporate that type of reflection so that you turn the mirror inward and allow police to sort of reflect on the situations they are in?
Now, this is training for the community.
That's what you mix it police.
Yeah, I mean, are you talking about training for
I'm
the
talking
police?
about building trust with the community when you have that 7-week program.
But that's for citizens.
That's for citizens.
Right, that come in.
Okay, so what would make more sense? That environment or the police actual training environment? We're talking about reflection.
They take every officer off the street for a week a year for training, and they have different modules which they can talk about.
Okay.
That's definitely part of it. And
Is trust part of it, building trust?
more of
Microphone?
Diversity, sensitivity, it's what it's more of. Did I hit the question?
No, let me tell you, two
Why don't you
questions.
stand up and articulate that question better?
My question was, as to build the trust between police and really politicians now and the community, is there training where both come together? And
That's what
then
I
put
was trying
together
to
a
do.
plan, an action plan, an action plan, an action plan that can be executed throughout the community? Because you say you have training on your side, you have training for us. There's no training of us together, so there's no trust building, because you're over there, we're over here, we come together, we talk for 5, 10 minutes, a half an hour. Is there training we can all come together and actually train, and then put in the action plan and put that into action?
That's an awesome question. I think it's a good point, because part of building trust is whatever you're doing it together. And trust is learning more about each other. So that is a good point. We don't currently do anything with police and civilian in a training mechanism together. We had youth police initiatives in the past. We're doing these roundtables.
Will you do it again? They're so
We're doing these
effective.
roundtable discussions.
But do you run it yourselves?
I'm sorry?
The police department is running it yourselves, versus the YPI trainers.
Right. We're trying to start a youth police White Plains initiative,
Okay.
not the NAACP, YPI, but the outreach to the different groups that are already established, the at-risk kids that are established that are youth bureau, whether it's a Great Expectations group or the Clubman or the Saturday Academy. We're meeting with all of these groups, first to have a conversation, then to give information, how to behave during the police encounter, what to expect from the police encounter, and if you feel that you're wronged, what recourse you have. So we're doing things to give the information, and then we'll look in the future for different initiatives to bring police and the community together. I think this is a great forum, a great start to building trust, because first we have to learn more about each other before we can, I guess, play with each other and train with each other.
And in closing, I'd like to invite all of you to apply, if you have the time, to attend our Citizens Police Academy, because you're speaking to police officers and they want to hear your feedback. So if you are an attendee of our Citizens Police Academy, you can one-on-one talk back to the instructor and tell them some of your concerns when they're teaching you about the police department and what we do internally. That's a great forum for you as a citizen who's attending the academy to bring up issues and talk back to the instructors.
So, Commissioner Chong, you mentioned to us when we had a meeting that there would be body cams in White Plains.
Yes.
Would you talk more about that?
We hit it. I think we hit it. I mean,
Yeah.
5 on the street now, we have the budget, it's gonna be in the budget to buy 50 more, which means every on-duty officer will have a body cam.
But what's the policy? The camera has to be on all times?
You can't have it on all the time, they're supposed to put it on when they, with engagement.
Right,
Engagement.
right. And what we did is we
And you
looked
have
at...
to train them. I'm learning myself, because I asked, I'm an active mayor. I ask questions, they have to be trained to remember, because they're
It's
getting out
gotta
of
be
the
a
car.
reflective
You ever
thing.
watch an officer on duty, they have memo books, I don't know if they still do, they have these giant memo books in their pocket, they have so much junk on them, that when they get out of the car, they have so much to think about. I'm sorry to speak like this, but this, I'm just a civilian. But now you have to train them to remember to start that camera. And what it does, these cameras do is they actually are, like your DVR, you can rewind, like if you're watching a football game, you want to go back on your DVR, you can go back even if you weren't recording. The cameras are, when they hit it like late,
30 second loop.
it will go 30 seconds back, so that if they, in other words, they think something is okay and all of a sudden it's not, and then they hit the start, it will revert back.
What happens if they forget to?
What prevents them from,
training.
That's what I'm saying, you gotta be
It
trained.
has to be
Right, but you can be trained.
what prevents them from turning it off and not turning
Well,
it
then
with
that's
engagement?
discipline. That's discipline.
Right, that's my question.
Yeah, then you're just, then you'd be violating a policy. You make a policy and have to adhere to it.
video? What happens?
Well, I think the question from the audience over here, Commissioner, is probably, how long is the training phase? How long are we giving them for training before we start disciplining them for not using the camera, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Yes.
And what keeps them from turning it off on their own?
And you know what? It's a new thing. It's new for us. It's new for us also. Understand, it's a new tool out there, okay? We've got 5 out there now. We've been testing them. They've been terrific. They really have. They've been terrific. The officers that are trained to use them now, it's become second hand. It's become second nature. You know, because we've told the officers, hey, listen, you're probably being recorded anyways, so you might as well have your own recording of what happened,
But
right?
shouldn't you come up with some, I mean, I don't know how long you have to wait to come up with some discipline policies or some policies
The
if.
policy is in effect. Once we issue that piece of equipment, we also issue policy and procedure on persons.
So if they
that are
don't
authorized.
do it, then what happens to that officer?
That's up to the commissioner, like I said, that's up to the commissioner for this.
So there's nothing like,
Well, what happens is.
it goes case by case, I guess.
It's case by case.
It's a case-by-case type situation.
Right.
But
Well,
I'm sure
the
there's
time has
something.
come.
But we were the first in White Plains to have body cameras, and I think they're gonna benefit.
And first in Westchester.
I'm sorry. And I think that's gonna benefit the police.
What a great audience, right?
Yes, thank you.
A great audience. We thank you so much. Oh.